Before anything begins, before names, before moments, before meaning starts to take shape, I need something small from you. Not for me. Not for numbers. Not for an algorithm that never sleeps. Do it for yourself. Take 1 second and subscribe to this channel. Because what you're about to experience isn't just another story you let play in the background while you scroll through your phone. This isn't noise. This isn't something you forget 5 minutes after it ends. Some stories entertain you, and some stories stay. They sit quietly in your mind long after the screen fades to black. They echo in your thoughts when you least expect it. They change how you see people, how you see yourself, how you walk into your next conversation. This is one of those stories. And by the time it ends, you'll understand why it couldn't be told any other way. Let's begin with something uncomfortable. Most people have absolutely no idea what confidence really is. They think confidence is loud. They think it's bold. They think it's walking into a room and instantly owning it, speaking perfectly, never hesitating, never second-guessing a single word. Movies make it dramatic. Social media makes it look effortless. But real confidence? It's quiet. It's subtle. It's almost invisible. Unless you know exactly what to look for. And when people misunderstand that, it doesn't just confuse them. It quietly destroys their chances at real connection. People used to look at me and assume I had everything figured out. They thought I was confident, not trying to be confident, but naturally that way. Like it was something built into me. Effortless. Automatic. They believed I walked into rooms already knowing where I belonged. That I never hesitated before speaking. That conversations somehow bent in my direction without me even trying. That when I spoke, people listened. Because they wanted to. They thought I never overthought anything. Never lay awake at 2 a.m. replaying conversations in my head. Never questioned whether I said too much or not enough. Never wondered why someone's energy shifted halfway through a conversation that once felt easy. But they were wrong. Completely, painfully wrong. Because what they never saw were the moments after everything ended. The part no one witnesses. The part no one posts. The silence. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy kind. The kind that sits in your chest and makes everything feel just slightly harder to breathe. I remember sitting alone on my bed, phone in my hand, staring at a conversation that used to feel warm, now suddenly cold. Refreshing messages that weren't coming. Reading the last text over and over again. Like somehow the meaning might change if I looked at it long enough. Trying to figure out what shifted. But there was never a clear ending. No confrontación. No explanación. No closure. Just distance. Slow. Quiet. Unmistakable distance. And somehow, that hurt more than rejection ever could. Because rejection is clear. It's direct. It gives you something to respond to. But this was different. I wasn't invisible. And honestly, that would have been easier. I was overlooked. And being overlooked carries a different kind of weight. Because being invisible means you were never seen. But being overlooked? It means you were seen. And still not chosen. I wasn't unattractive. I wasn't boring. I had friends. I had opinions. I had a life that, on the outside, looked completely fine. If someone glanced at my social media, they'd probably think, she's doing well. She looks happy. She has everything together. But underneath that surface, something kept breaking. Quietly. Repeatedly. Every time I wanted something real. Every time I leaned in emotionally. Every time I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time someone would meet me halfway. They didn't. Conversations stayed polite. Dates ended early wrapped in soft, careful excuses. Text messages slowed. Then stopped. No arguments. No drama. Just fading. And that fading? It always felt like a reflection of me. What made it worse was watching other women move through the same spaces so differently. We were in the same rooms. The same conversations. The same social circles. But somehow, completely different outcomes. They laughed and people leaned in. Not intentionally. Not consciously. It just happened. They spoke. And weeks later, people remembered small details they'd mentioned once in passing. Meanwhile, I was analyzing everything. Every word I said. Every pause that felt slightly too long. Every laugh that didn't land the way I imagined. Every smile that felt just a little off. At first, I blamed my appearance. Then my voice. Then my clothes. Then the way I laughed. I changed everything I could. Outfits. Hair. Makeup. Expressions. I even practiced laughing differently. Softer. Lighter. Less noticeable. Then I worried it sounded fake. So I changed it again. And again. And again. But nothing worked. Because I was trying to fix the wrong problem. There's something no one really teaches you. No one explains it clearly. No one sits you down and says this in a way that actually clicks. Attraction isn't about impressing someone. It's not about performing. It's not about proving your worth in subtle, exhausting ways. Attraction comes from something much simpler and much deeper. It comes from how someone feels when they're around you. I didn't learn that from a book. I didn't learn it from a video. I learned it from a man who barely spoke. His name was Daniel Brooks. The first time I noticed him, he didn't stand out. At least, not in the way you'd expect. It was a friend's birthday dinner. One of those long tables where too many conversations are happening at once. People talking over each other. Laughing louder than necessary. Trying to be seen. Trying to be heard. Daniel wasn't doing any of that. He wasn't the loudest person at the table. He wasn't telling impressive stories. He wasn't trying to dominate the room. In fact, if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed him entirely. And yet, people kept gravitating toward him. Men respected him. Quietly, naturally. Women leaned in when he spoke. Even strangers seemed to trust him within minutes. There was no obvious reason. No flashy personality. No attention-seeking behavior. No visible effort. And that's what unsettled me. Because whatever he had, I couldn't see it. But I could feel its effect. By the end of the night, one thing became clear. Daniel barely talked about himself. He didn't try to impress anyone. He didn't try to be interesting. Instead, he did something almost no one else at that table was doing. He asked questions. But not the usual ones. Not the kind you ask just to fill silence. Not what do you do? Not where are you from? His questions made people pause. They made people think. They made people feel something. And when someone answered, he didn't interrupt. He didn't wait for his turn to speak. He didn't drift off mentally. He listened. Fully. Completely. And when Daniel looked at you, something shifted. The room felt quieter. Time felt slower. And for that moment, you felt like you mattered. Not in a dramatic way. Not in an overwhelming way. But in a calm, grounding, undeniable way. And that feeling? It stayed with you. A week later, I saw him again. A small cafe. Completely by chance. Or maybe not. This time, I didn't just observe. I asked him directly, "What's your secret?" He smiled. Not a rehearsed smile. Not a confident smile. Just a quiet, understanding one. And then he said something that completely changed the way I understood connection. Most people are so busy trying to be interesting that they forget to be interested. That sentence stayed with me. Long after the conversation ended. Long after I left the cafe. Because for the first time, something made sense. All those moments I was trying too hard. All those conversations where I was focused on saying the right thing. All those times I believed I had to perform to be liked. I had it backwards. Connection doesn't come from performance. It comes from presence. People don't remember your exact words. They don't remember how clever you sounded. They don't remember the perfectly timed story you told. They remember something much simpler. How they felt around you. Did they feel safe? Did they feel seen? Did they feel understood? Because when someone feels emotionally recognized, their body reacts before their mind does. Their shoulders relax. Their breathing slows. Their smile becomes real. Not polite. Not forced. Real. And once I understood that, everything began to change. Not instantly. Not dramatically. But quietly. And that quiet shift reshaped every interaction I had after that. But here's what no one tells you. Understanding this is one thing. Living it, that's something else entirely. Because when you've spent years believing that you need to perform to be valued, it doesn't just disappear overnight. Your mind still pushes you to impress, to prove, to fill silence before it becomes uncomfortable, to say something, anything, so you don't feel forgettable. The first time I tried to do it differently, it felt unnatural, almost wrong. I remember sitting across from someone mid-conversation, and instead of planning what I would say next, I just listened. No rehearsing, no analyzing, no trying to steer the conversation, just listening. And something strange happened. The silence that used to feel heavy didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. It felt open. For the first time, I wasn't trying to be liked. I was trying to understand. And that changed everything. Because when you stop trying to control how someone sees you, you finally give them space to actually see you. That's the part no one talks about. The moment you stop performing is the moment you become real. And real is rare. Most people walk into conversations wearing invisible masks, trying to appear more confident, more interesting, more put together than they actually feel. And you can sense it. Even if you can't explain it. It creates distance. Subtle but real. But when someone shows up without that layer, without that constant need to impress, it feels different. It feels honest. It feels safe. And people are drawn to that. Not because it's loud, but because it's real. And slowly, very slowly, I started noticing something shift. Conversations lasted longer. People opened up more. They shared things they normally wouldn't. Not because I said something extraordinary, but because I made space for them to feel heard. And that's when it finally clicked. Confidence isn't about being the most interesting person in the room. It's about making other people feel interesting. And once you understand that, you stop chasing attention, because you don't need it anymore. You create connection instead. And connection? That's what people remember. That's what they come back for. That's what stays. So the next time you walk into a room, don't try to impress anyone. Don't try to perform. Don't try to prove anything. Just be present. Be curious. Be genuinely interested. Because in a world full of people trying to be seen, the one who truly sees others becomes unforgettable. And now, you understand why this story had to be told this way.